Hi, I'm Vanessa Anderson.
And I'm Stephanie Cooley.
It's time to give ourselves a moment to be real, to express all of motherhood.
Mothering is beautiful. It's wonderful.
And you know what? It's fucked up too.
Come hang out with us. We're the real motherfuckers. In one of our episodes, Vacation Without Kids, Vanessa and I chat about a recent yoga retreat. It was peaceful, healing, relaxing, and not to be cheesy, but I'll say it anyway, it was life-changing.
While the retreat is in the past, we are still reaping the benefits today. This was my second year going to Mudra retreats, and they did not disappoint. Everyone involved just gets it.
They think of every detail. The sleepy, calm, and serene beachfront hotel. The food was beautifully presented and delicious.
Oh yes, I miss their hibiscus tea. Our yoga teacher was a true inspiration. Each class with her taught me something different and expanded my curiosity with movement and with mindfulness.
Reach out to us on Instagram, Real Motherfuckers Podcast, if you have questions on the retreat, and we're happy to answer them for you.
Yes, go to www.mudraretreats.com and use our link, RMFP, when you check out to support us.
Hey everyone, this is our last episode of 2023. We've been going at this podcast for a few months now, I guess May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. 7 months. Okay, 7 months. We've learned a hell of a lot from moms, women, fathers, and I think that we wanted to wrap this year up with an episode that just celebrated the different ways we hold traditions and the ways that we celebrate the winter holidays. There's no one way to raise a family. There's no one way to celebrate the life we live. So I wanted you to listen to a few stories of different traditions, of different cultures and backgrounds. The first one is my mom, Carmen. The next one is Taina. The next one is Sky. And we wrap it up with Rachel, who is a dear colleague and teacher of our children when they were in preschool. I hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season and that you get to hug and hold your family. And we will talk to you in 2024. Thanks for all your support. Hello, everyone. This is my mom. And we're actually in my mom's house, which was before my mom moved into it, what was my grandma's house. I grew up in this house. Yes. It looked different than this, but it's really cool to come back to this house because, I don't know, I feel my grandma here.
Yeah.
And it's funny, my daughter was going down the hallway and she's like, "Can you go with me? I'm scared." Why? And I thought, oh, I had that memory too, going down the hallway and feeling scared. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to be here with Mom. Okay. And
I'm
Mom,
glad you came.
Oh, thanks. Mom is going to tell us about Christmas in the Philippines.
During my time.
Yeah. So Mom was born in 1944.
Right.
And maybe you can tell us where you're from in the Philippines.
I live in Dalangayan Este, a barrio of San Fernando City now, because it used to be just San Fernando, the capital of La Union. So Luzon is divided with so many provinces, and the province where I live is called La Union. And I live in a barrio, it's like, I don't know how many miles or kilometers, but I used to walk to school more than an hour.
Wow.
Yes.
And then walking to school was through what? Like fields?
No, they have a dirt road.
Okay,
but
dirt road.
A lot of puddles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did you wear shoes?
There were no, most of the time I am barefoot because I walk through puddles. So I carry my shoes when I go to school in the town because I used to go to school in the barrio, but when I became on my 6th grade, we made the decision that I go to Christ the King, which is a private school, so that I can get used to the environment, how things are done in school because it's very different where I went to school. And when I went to that school, Christ the King College, then I don't know if it's still called Christ the King. It was just so different. I was like so helpless because I don't know how to do my homework. I couldn't ask anyone to do my homework because my parents didn't reach this grade when they were growing up. I don't know. They just finished probably third grade or whatever. I don't know. But that's how it was when I was elementary school.
Yeah.
Through high school, I graduated 1960.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
in high school. So what do you want to ask?
Yeah. So since this is talking about holiday traditions, we're going to talk about what it was like for Christmas for you. I remember growing up, you would tell me
Yes. What do you remember that I tell you?
that there were no presents involved.
No. I didn't receive any presents when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay. So tell us what it was like. What did you do instead? You were Catholic.
Yes.
You are Catholic.
Yeah, I am Catholic.
And so
is my mom.
Yeah.
But she became Jehovah's Witness when I was in college, I think, or when I was already working. I don't know when she became Jehovah's Witness, which is now so different when we have gatherings because they have different beliefs and traditions now. So it's kind of different. So my family now is my kids.
yeah, well, I remember growing up being kind of bummed because I had a lot of friends who had big gatherings with their aunts and uncles and grandmas and grandpas. But I also look back and I think it was a nice time because we had such intimate Christmases. I think as a kid, I just wanted more presents.
Yes, of course, that's what kids have to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in American culture.
Yes.
Okay, so you would go to church. What would you do on Christmas festivities up to Christmas?
Okay. They still have that one. They call it Simbang Gabi. I think it's very popular to the American people now because Filipinos are all over the United States, all over the world. And we always celebrated the Simbang Gabi, which is like what you call this? Novena before the birth of Christ, which is December 25. I think 9 days before that, we have Simbang Gabi, which we go to Mass very early in the morning, like 4 o'clock.
4.
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
Okay. Why?
Because I don't know.
Okay, got it.
I just woke up when they woke me up to go to church. So my mom then at that time hired a kalesa for us to ride.
Oh, that's fancy though, right?
Yeah,
because
that
you
was
would
like,
never get a ride.
Like right now you're in a limousine.
Okay, what's a kalesa?
Kalesa is driven by a horse.
Okay, is
Yeah.
it like a horse and carriage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of people knows the kalesa. I don't know. But that's like, in other words, nowadays it would be a limousine because
Okay.
we ride in a
Filipino
kalesa.
1950s limousine.
Yes.
Okay. So you'd go to
Expensive.
church.
Yeah, go to church and then come home. And then that's it. Do our chores, whatever. We don't come from a well-to-do family, so we didn't have this thing that they eat a lot of food. We didn't have that luxury.
Okay. But you talked about your favorite moments were Christmas caroling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I was growing up, maybe when I was already going to school, elementary, we go caroling. We even go different places, not only in our barrio, we go different. And I go with my cousins and friends. That's how we spend a Christmas, before Christmas thing. So we go caroling. And if you're lucky, most of the things that they give are cakes, rice cake.
Rice
mostly.
cake. Okay.
And then if you're lucky, they give you money, but very rare. You have to know where to carol that gives you money.
How do you know? Is it based on their house?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, so describe
Or,
that.
or maybe from word of mouth from friends. Oh, you go to that house, they give money.
Oh, yeah. Hit up that house.
Yeah. Go to that house, they give money. And we even made up a song like, I don't know how to sing. But when I was young, I was a good singer.
Okay.
But it's just like, you have to do something to get the money. I forgot the wordings.
Can you say it in Ilocano? You don't have to sing it. You can say it.
I should have asked Belen because she knows all the songs. I can't remember the songs, but they said like, what is it? I cannot say it, Steph.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah. But we know where to go for families that give money.
Okay.
Because by word of mouth or by looking at their house, it's a big house. But sometimes even the big house don't give anything.
Okay. So describe the house, because my imagination is very much, when I hear about people Christmas caroling, I think of a westernized Christmas caroling. That's people in nice dresses going from house to house that are like large modern homes made of wood and painted. What are your houses like and the neighborhoods like?
No, it's like as long as you're comfortable, you walk on dirt, so you don't have to wear shoes. So sometimes you have to walk on dikes where there's two bamboos that you cross, so you have to be very careful on how you walk because you might fall down in the rice field.
And rice fields are flooded with water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rice fields are full of water. During that time, December, the rice are, growing. But nowadays, I think they have crops like 3 times a year. But during my time, it's just once a year.
Yeah.
So we just depend on the rain. But nowadays, they have like irrigation system, I think.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I hear.
Okay, so you're walking barefoot. You're walking on bamboo sticks to get to houses if they're flooded around the area.
Yeah.
And what are the houses like?
The houses are mostly with nipa hut, and we don't have this cemented house yet at that time because nowadays they have a lot of these big houses made of concrete because most of the people now go abroad to earn money.
Yeah.
To make a better life for their family and then go back home. But during my time, that was not a thing.
So your houses were made of bamboo.
Yeah.
And like a leaf from the nipa tree. Is that what it is?
Yeah, from a kugon grass. It's called the kugon grass.
And your house is on stilts.
Still, yes. And then our window is like something like, go like this. It's
it's like
it's not
an
sliding,
awning over
yeah,
it.
It's not like a sliding door. It's like a awning, you call it?
Yeah.
So at nighttime, we just remove the stick
Okay.
and it's nighttime.
Yeah.
And then also because you put the ladder that goes to your house because you're in stilt to go like this, so no critters will probably go up. I don't know why you do that.
Yeah. You're closing up shop.
Yeah, that's how I grew up. So to me, during my time, I didn't have any stress about receiving or giving presents. We didn't have that. All we do is go caroling. And then when I grew up a little older, when I started to dance, there's like a dance to every barrio, and there's even a contest who does the best program, because we used to have like actors and actresses who participate in the dramas.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But to me, I was not involved in that one. I just want to dance.
Yeah. Okay. So my mom is, it's probably safe to say, pretty addicted to ballroom dancing.
I am. I am obsessed.
Yeah. I'll probably share a clip of my mom dancing. It's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. I am really proud to say that I am a good dancer because that's what everybody says.
Yeah. My mom is an awesome dancer. My mom is also 79 years old.
Yes.
And dances like every day for many hours a day on heels. I look forward to being like mom.
Okay. You better learn how to dance.
I know. I'm not that's not my forte.
I learned it in a studio. So I was not really, our dance is like going like this. We don't really move in the dance floor.
Yeah.
And then when I went to learn how to dance, you're supposed to move in the dance floor.
Yeah.
But when I was dancing, during my time, there was no dance floor. We dance on dirt.
Yeah. So that's what your Christmas dancing was like, is dancing on dirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they put the benches made of bamboos.
Okay.
So they make like a ballroom thing. So we hire, we had a band too during Christmas. So it's almost like a competition with the different barrios. So
This is cool. So Christmas growing up for you was like a big party. Everybody's singing and everybody's dancing.
yeah, especially, if you're a teenager, some guys, they go up a tree and find where the music is.
Before texting was around, you climb up a tree and you listen to where the party is at.
Yes, and then you just follow the music.
Oh my God.
It's really true.
Yes. So good.
Yeah, and also when I was already dancing, we had a small store, like a sari store. We sell all kinds of small stuff. And my mom is like...
My grandma was a hustler. She could find something and figure out that she could sell it.
Yes. So our livelihood is based from my mom's...
Entrepreneurship.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm always with my mom when I go dancing. Okay. And then my mom will always say, okay, don't disappoint guys when you dance because that's when you start a fight.
What does this mean?
Because, okay, say for example, somebody came to approach me to dance with me, but I said no. And then another guy came and then I go. And then there will be a fight among the guys.
Oh my God. Guys fighting over you. So grandma told you to dance with all the guys?
Yes.
Well, what if you thought they were gross?
Well, that's a part of the fun.
Okay.
You smell like Carabao.
What do you mean?
Because those guys went to the field and...
Yeah.
Okay.
There's they didn't have cologne.
They probably put cologne and then the smell will be so different.
Yeah, they smell like a hard day's work. Yeah.
I had all kinds of fun when I was growing up. I didn't have any stress about money, nothing, you know, because there's no competition of clothes.
Yeah.
There probably is because when I was growing up, my mom used to sew our clothes too. So the one piece of cloth, she divides it into, and for the other half is for me, my sister the other half. For the others who have more money, they wear the balloon,
Oh, the balloon
because
skirt.
when you twirl, you look good.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't like,
Straight.
I like to wear balloon dresses now because I like to twirl.
Well, it is flattering on the figure.
Yes. And when the guys know that I like to twirl, they will twirl me more.
All right.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Anyway, where were we?
This is where we are.
Okay.
We're just talking about singing, dancing.
Yeah, we didn't have any Christmas tree.
Yeah.
There was no Christmas tree. The only time I heard about Christmas tree is when I was already probably in college. I don't know when. And then what we do with Christmas tree, we just get a branch of the tamarind or whatever is available and put something there like decorations. We don't have ornaments to buy. There's no ornaments in the stores.
Yeah.
Or probably there was, but we didn't have money to buy.
So you didn't have ornaments, you didn't have a Christmas tree, and it didn't matter because no one else had a Christmas tree.
Yeah, but we made our own ornaments through imagination. So when I first made our Christmas tree here in America, I made all my ornaments. I didn't buy
I
any.
have memories of us making ornaments.
And Stephanie's asking me where I put them.
I know.
And I said, we moved too much, Stephanie. I don't know where they are now.
Yeah.
So
I have these memories of my sisters and my mom, they're all very good seamstresses. They would make these little dancing ladies as ornaments, all from scrap fabric.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything else about Christmas that we're missing that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, well, what I like the most too is there's always like a Christmas story about how Jesus was born. So they made a story about Christmas like that too. So it's like, I don't know who are giving the awards because sometimes they give awards to those dramas or a little skit that we have produced.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you'd have like teams of children going against each other on who has the best.
Not children, even adults.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Actually, my uncle, who is a dentist who passed away long time ago, was the one who was really in charge of that tune. She's very creative. And the other guy is the dad of my brothers, Danny, who just passed away. She's very good in directing she's like a good
That's
director.
really cool. I'm just thinking, okay, so the equivalent today is that me and my kids watch Home Alone and you put on plays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As entertainment and kind of the storytelling of Christmas. Okay.
Yeah. And then also the preparation for Christmas for the adults is like to gather wood to make it into charcoal, because the charcoal is used to make the tupig.
Okay, tell us what tupig is.
Tupig,
I know what it is, but tell everybody else.
The tupig is like a rice flour that's put into a dough and make like wrap it with banana leaves and roast it on the fire, up and down. So you have to have a fire on the bottom and charcoal on the top. That's how we did it. And
that's the oven back in the day.
Yes, that was our oven because we didn't have ovens.
And tupig is like a sweet dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a treat.
Everything that we made or preparation for Christmas are desserts.
Yeah. And they're all pretty much similarly rice-based.
And coconut. In our community, we don't have the luxury of coconut. In some parts of the Philippines, the Visayan Island, they have lots of coconuts. So they cook their food mostly for, the everyday diet that they have. They are made of coconut milk. But in my place, we don't have that luxury. We spice our food with bagoong.
Okay, tell everybody what that is.
A bagoong is a fermented fish that gets fermented for at least, depends on the weather. When it's hot, it ferments quicker. And that's what we use to spice our dinding.
Yeah, well, because you lived by the ocean.
By the ocean.
So it's cool because, it's such a thing now where everybody wants to try to eat local. And you really did because you had to.
Yeah.
So people in a different place where there was an abundance of coconut, use coconut. You had an abundance of fish, so you use more fish.
Yes. Whatever is available in your community, in your neighborhood, or in your garden is what you eat.
Yeah.
There were no imported foods at that time.
Not at that time.
Yeah, no.
Well, this was really fun, Mom.
Okay.
I hope you enjoy listening to my mom's stories. I have heard a lot of these before, but it's always really cool to see or hear again. And also my kids are across the room, so it's nice for them to hear the stories again too.
Yeah, they can appreciate what they have now, because we didn't have that luxury when we were growing up, but we didn't have any kind of stress about buying. No, the most stressful part of Christmas here for me is buying presents, because I don't know what people like.
Yeah, I know. That is a stressful thing. I kind of wish we didn't have it sometimes, but it's the culture.
That's the culture. You have to go with the culture.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will be,
I think we can integrate. We can probably meet halfway in some ways.
Yes. Okay.
Well, thanks, Mom.
Welcome
You're
to
welcome.
our podcast. I feel like it's been a long time coming before we had you on, Taina. And let's see. You are one of the most interesting people I've met this year, because first of all, I didn't know that you could get your master's in yoga, and I'm a yoga teacher. So that blew my mind. And I was like, if that was available, and if I would have known that, I would have gone for that too. So that right away, I already love you. I am having the privilege of knowing your children recently, and we've gotten to hang out as friends as well. You've been part of our circle, our moon circle that we do, and it's been really a treat every time I've been able to see you since. So thank you for coming, and we want to know who you are today. We want to know what your religious background is, if you have one, any of your cultural festivals or holiday traditions that you have.
I think the question about your background is really to give context to what your holiday tradition is and how you celebrate.
Yeah, because I feel like you would be an interesting person to hear about that. I mean, it could be as traditional as what I do, but I just feel like you have this deep soul. So could you please educate us on what you do and who you are?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. I love the podcast, so I'm honored to be a guest. That's like such a wildly deep question, right? And you can answer it in so many ways. Like, who are you? What's your background? And I think as I get older, I'm figuring out new ways to answer that and to delve into kind of my background and understand how my background plays into who I am in this moment and who I will continue to evolve. But my name's Taina Rodriguez-Berardi. I grew up in the Bay Area, in Oakland specifically. My family is Mexican American, but we say Chicano or Chicana, right? Because we're Californian. My parents were part of the farm workers movement in the Central Valley as they were coming of age and into union organizing and all things, workers' rights as they were coming of age. And so that really fed into who I am as a person and a adult and a woman and our traditions as well, because our traditions are very much a mix of Mexican, indigenous, and American, and very specifically Californian, I think. And that plays a lot into our religion too. My grandmother on my father's side, whose family we're, very close with and, grew up in the Central Valley in Fresno. She was very Catholic and religious and, prayed to God and wanted her, 7 children to all go to church every Sunday. And my father, being the second youngest and kind of rebellious, hated going to church, not only because he had to wear like the clothes and the, do the prayers and all of that, but because they were very poor, they were migrant farm workers. He felt some type of way about how they were treated within a religious institution that is supposed to be universally principled on love and, kindness and, all of these things. They had to sit, towards the back of the church. They, were made to feel less than because they couldn't, tithe their minimal, salaries to the church and so forth. So growing up, I grew up kind of non-religious. We had this background of Catholicism. My dad is also a Afro-Cuban Latin jazz musician, so he had this very global sense of culture. And growing up in the Bay Area, it's such a melting pot. I was exposed to Christianity and Judaism and Islam and Eastern spiritualities from a very young age. And even most specifically Santeria, which is what my dad practiced, from when I can remember. He had an altar to Elegua. And it's interesting because it is, Santeria itself is Caribbean in its kind of origins of bringing together African and Catholicism religions and creating this kind of new form. So him as a musician and being part of that kind of Caribbean scene of Latin jazz and Afro-Cuban fusion, that's kind of how I grew up too. And so it really informed my curiosity and my questioning of religious ritual and ceremony. And so a lot of that plays into how I celebrate holidays and how I interpret traditions within my own family. Much of what we did was like very much Mexican or Chicano kind of in our family gatherings. Everybody came together. We like congregated and, huge families. So everything revolves around food and togetherness. So there's lots of kind of memories revolving around that. And that's something I'm with now, myself being only a older child and a younger sister, and now me having two children as well. As the generations go down with smaller families, I guess in my mind, it becomes almost nostalgic to recreate that in some form, way, shape, even though the numbers just aren't there anymore, right? So yeah, a lot of our traditions revolved around like a coming together over meals, and not even just like the sitting down aspect of it, but the like highly collaborative, really messy and full of life like kitchens of like, you know, all the generations coming together and making this central meal, which, you know, because we kind of come from this traditional, non-traditional Mexican American background, our meals would be like frijoles, papas, like my grandmother would make my favorite dessert is empanadas, but her empanadas were made of pumpkin or calabaza, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then on the same table would be you know, crab legs and like very like Californian like seafood cuisine.
Yeah.
You know, my family, you know, father's generation, many of them moved to many of us, I guess, moved to the Bay Area. So like Italian influence of cioppino with like, which is like a seafood kind of soup, and very San Franciscan, not San Franciscan Italian dish. So we'd have, you know, empanadas, we'd have frijoles, we'd have, you know, like Spanish rice, and then we'd have like crab legs and cioppino, and you know, some like crazy organized salad and like all of these things, you know, when we would come together. And I think the most important part for me growing up was spending that time with my grandmother, learning her very simple but amazingly delicious, what I would consider Mexican, you know, food. And, you know, she came from, you know, having to feed 7 children with like not a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, throughout her life, she perfected how to make pinto beans or frijoles, right? She perfected how to make tortillas, right? And each of those dishes really like has like 2 things in it, right? Um, and she perfected rice, like, you know, the orange rice or the Spanish rice. And those are things that she passed down to my dad, and who I learned from both how to make. And those are things around the holidays that I start to like. I didn't even notice it. I made frijoles a couple days ago, and it was like, I think out of just nostalgia, I was just like, I just want some beans and some rice.
Yeah.
And I made quinoa instead, but you know,
Yeah.
but but all of that I think was just, all of a sudden December hits and I'm starting to like get into that vibe of wanting to eat and smell and be embodied by the food that my family makes. Um, and that's something that it was tortillas we used to make with my grandmother and my mom, and my dad made us our own little palos, like our little rolling pins, from when we were little. And so recently when my mom was here, she wanted, I could tell she wanted to like recreate that experience with my kids, even though they're not even 2 yet. So she pulled out like the flour and the little, you know, rolling pins that we have, and was like showing them how to make that tortillas with, you know, their hands. And there's a little song, tortillitas. So those are the things that light me up around the holidays. And you know, amazingly it's around food, right?
Yeah.
Because that to me is our family traditions.
That's beautiful. I mean, there is a thing to say that there's soul to food, right? Soul food. And I think every culture has their soul food. Everyone has their traditions. And I like that. You know, it's this time of year and it's calling you to start doing it.
Mm-hmm. I have the same thing. Like when I miss my mom or just memories of growing up, I'll start making Filipino food, and it's not the same. But just Just the little hints of it. And, I'm guessing your grandma doesn't have exact measurements for anything. She's like, a little bit of this, a lot of that. Just eye it.
Totally. I remember, actually, I still have this. So I want to say like second grade, our entire second grade class around this time of year, one of the projects was to make a recipe book from like, our family or cultural recipes. And so everybody, went home and grabbed their recipes. And this was like before like real computers and stuff. So
Yeah.
part of the job was like typing it all up and like, all of that. And so I went, it was over Thanksgiving, I believe, or Christmas, one of those holidays. And I went and I said, Ami, my grandmother, I'm ready to like write down the recipe because I wanted to provide the recipe for empanadas, right? Her style of empanadas. And I started, getting ready to write. And she's like, okay, you put flour, you put water, you knead it. And I was like, no, like, like how many cups, how many teaspoons?
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't, she was like, like, I don't know. And so I was like, oh, great. This is going to be like more of a project than I ever even dreamed of. But luckily, so I still have that little recipe book. It's like tattered and like whatnot.
Oh my gosh.
I still have it. And the other day I looked and her whole recipe as she kind of like detailed, and my mom helped me kind of figure out, proportions and whatnot. But I have that, and it's like, my husband makes fun of me. He's like, oh, there you go, pulling out the old recipe book. I'm like, it's still valid and still like amazing. And then it makes me think of her too, and it's something that I want, there's a few of her recipes that I want to make sure my kids, are able to make and pass on to their kids.
I say you should frame it.
Yeah. It's in those little plastic sheets.
Oh, yes. Yep.
I love that.
Those covers to protect the paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. So it seems like your tradition is going to be to pass on that good grub that you and your family make, and I love that. So thank you for sharing so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. I think it's important to. I think a lot of people. It's interesting because I grew up, Latina in California, which is like, leading in the nation in terms of Latino or Hispanic population. But I always felt like I was on in some liminal space because I grew up in Oakland, which is, hugely diverse. I had friends from all different parts of the city and beyond. And, I feel like a lot of our traditions were not traditionally Mexican or, had some aspects of it, but weren't necessarily what another Mexican family might, celebrate or include in their traditions. So I always felt, kind of like questioning of, our traditions and if they were authentic or real or, maybe even lamenting, like, why couldn't we be more Mexican or why couldn't we be more American, right? On the flip side, at a certain point, because, I was the kid taking homemade burritos to lunch at, elementary school, and people were like, what's that? And I'm like, it's a burrito. And then I was like, I don't want burritos. Whereas now I would be like, oh my God, please, can I have my mom's burritos for lunch? Right?
Seriously.
But it's taken, a life to kind of reckon with all that, and then realize that through academic research, even recognizing what is tradition, there's no like, you can't put your finger on it because it's ever evolving. And I think to me, that's an important reminder that each of us gets to put in our own essence and lived experience into the traditions that we're keeping alive, right? And it's important that, we recognize that and hold space for the opportunity for tradition to evolve rather than remain this constant, because it never has been.
It's like parenting, like we take what we learned from our parents and instill it with our children, and the other stuff that we're we could set aside and move on from those. But I think it's taking little bits of what we enjoy and then passing it on.
Mm-hmm. There's an essence that continues, though, like whether you change it or not, there's like a little essence of whatever the origin was that even if the recipe kind of changes, you can still feel that energy or spirit of that original plate or platter or whatever it is. It's there.
For Thanksgiving this year, we had traditional Thanksgiving food, and then I brought Filipino rice cake just to
mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I love that last bit you just said. That really touches a really good point, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your holiday tradition of delicious comida from your abuelita and your dad and everyone else. So I really appreciate it. So we have Sky here today with us, and she is part of our lives in a lot of aspects. She's a mom at our schools where our children go. She's also a yoga teacher where I teach yoga.
That's right.
And you are also, I just feel like you share so much of who you are with the community. You're an open book, which I love. You invite our community to your home. And it is amazing that you are so open to share your traditions and your celebrations with everybody. And that was one of the reasons that this idea sparked for us for this episode, was how when you share a tradition, you share your culture, and it's just it's sharing love. It's sharing love and spreading that. And that's what the holiday season is. Yeah.
It is, because I believe when you have something that you either believe in or something you know or something you love, just share it.
Yes.
Share this gift with others. But yeah, I always say that diversity and variety in our lives, in our culture, just brings richness to everything around, to other aspects of your life as well. So yeah, I was fortunate to be born in one place, relocate to other, growing up there, and then choosing in my 20s to move to another place. And ultimately, I'm here in Fallbrook, which is, I love it.
Sky, can you share with us where you began and all the different places that you've been to? Just to give us background on how you've come to these traditions and how you live your life today.
Yeah, so I was born in Soviet Russia 40 years ago, and only when the Soviet Union has collapsed, it was in 90 or a little bit before 90, 89. I was a little girl, and only after that collapse, Russian people who were not only like Christian Russian or Slavic Russians, they were allowed to leave. And luckily, before that, Russia was a closed country. All these countries under Soviet Union were a part of Russia, and people were not allowed to come and go. Mm-hmm. It was not as free as other places. And therefore, my mom, she was Jewish, and she said, we have to like get away from here. And her choice was to go to Israel. And I guess it also was easier than going to the States or as far as Canada, because many Jewish people chose to go to different places. Mm-hmm. And as a result, my very proud Russian father decided to stay, and they got divorced. And me and my mom went to a new chapter. She was only 32, 33. I was 8-year-old girl, second grader. And she just took me to Israel. She began from zero, like completely new page, learning a new language, new culture, new dating culture, because she was a single woman. Mm-hmm. So it was all very new and very shocking in a way. And same for me. We moved to Israel. Everything was different. The school system, the language, the culture. I remember like Russia was super serious, and even as a school child, you have to sit like that and raise your left hand only if you want to speak to the teacher. Wow. And suddenly we came to Israel, and I didn't know how to speak Hebrew, but it was lunch break, and somebody opened a snack, and everybody just jumped on him, on that child, and just grabbed the snack, like. And I was like, what's going on? Are these like they're acting like monkeys. It was wild to me. But people were sharing food and eating from each other's lunch boxes and grabbing with their fingers, no washing hands, like at least it looked like that. And it was very different. And my neighbor would cook something really delicious, and it was an apartment building, and she just say, "Hey, come over," my neighbor's mom, and we will just sit with bowls of cooked chicken with potatoes on the stairs and just eat together, like nothing formal. It was very welcoming culture.
I can
in
see
Israel.
that characteristic in you today because you love to share and invite people to your home and just share your food. And yeah, I can see that
Yeah, we
past in
do.
you.
Yeah. So religiously, we are not, especially myself, I'm not a religious person, but we did decide that for the kids, we're going to share for sure the Hebrew traditions, the Israeli traditions, and also the Chinese, because as you probably heard or know that we moved to China. I moved to China. I met my husband there. I met Reshev probably when I was living in Shanghai by myself for a couple of years. And we got married. We had 2 kids there. The third one was born in Los Angeles. And Johnny, at least, he used to feel completely Chinese. He used to go to Chinese preschool. He's fluent in Mandarin language.
That's amazing.
And that's the main reason, like out of this respect to this beautiful tradition that all the holidays are getting to be celebrated with the moon cycle. And it's really beautiful. So we do celebrate Chinese New Year and the Fall Festival as well. Yeah.
Can you tell us what it's like during the winter holidays? What sort of things do you and your family do specifically to celebrate the winter holidays? And I know you said you're not religious, but do you infuse some of the things that happen from the religion into your home?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, my father is extremely religious Christian from a Pravoslavik church. It's a little bit different than Catholic, but they have similar traditions. So out of respect to this culture as well, we do we celebrate the Novi God, which is the New Year. So in Russia, the main thing is not the Christmas, it's not the day that Jesus was born, but rather the New Year, the mark. That people stay until really late and exchange presents and eat a lot of sweets and cakes and drink tea and wine. And they drink a lot in general. We do the New Year Eve. We do celebrate that. We have a Christmas tree, and we have a lot of Hanukkah symbols on the Christmas tree. Like we have the menorahs, ornaments, and things like that. And as far as winter traditions, I try to stay away from a little pressure that I feel since I moved to the States during this period. People, like my clients, my yoga students, my friends, in general, people even in the school, there is a little stress around the holidays. Maybe it's the shopping, the expectations, the busyness of life. So I just try as much as I can to stay away from that stress around the holidays and just look at it as something simple and beautiful, and that's it. So as far as Hanukkah celebrations, we do the menorah lightening. So it's every night 1 candle. And Hanukkah is a holiday that speaks about miracles. So it's a miracle because there's ancient story about a small jug of olive oil that lasts for 8 days and help the people that were hiding in the temple to have enough light and also enough food as a result. So it's just about believing in miracles. So that's why we tell the kids. And every night we light 1 candle. So the second day is 2 candles, 3 candles, and ultimately the menorah is full with the 8 candles at the last day. And typically once a year, what we do, we also invite someone from Nia's class. And this year, and probably all the years as long as we are together in the same school, it will be the same class, Nia's class, and some friends, sometimes some neighbors are welcome to join, and we just celebrate one of these days together. And another holiday that is a winter holiday, is the Chinese New Year. It's more like they call it Spring Festival, but it's actually still in the winter, I would say, end of January. And that's what we celebrated. We decided to do it for Johnny's class all the years. So since we moved to the States, and the reason is because he felt very identified with that culture, and we want to respect that and bring it, to make sure it doesn't forget.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Especially.
How mindful of you as a mom and, your husband as a dad to acknowledge that, to keep that part of his identity alive, even though that land is so far away now, that you acknowledge that. And it's so beautiful the way you did it last year. We got to experience it, to making the dumplings, and everything was just so beautiful. Like you said, simple, but I have never done that before. And it was so fun to do it together and to feast together and to have those foods. It was so beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel it's like a mind opening when you have a little sneak peek to someone else's culture. It just opens your mind. It's whether you're just hearing the language, or I feel like it's mind opening for people. And this year, some people that they always been surrounded by Jewish, but they said we never celebrated Hanukkah. The kids never saw the menorah. Menorah has so many candles at the same time, and they were like very surprised. They didn't even know about the candles. So it's just something nice that opens your mind a little. So I appreciate different cultures because of that.
Curious, what brought you to China? I just thinking about how far off it is from Israel, and what brought you there.
It is far. So, I was bartendering almost full time as a college student, and I learned Mandarin and Chinese business culture and history. And I had this dream to go to Shanghai, to the big city, and have a cool job. I was not sure what. I wanted to be a journalist, but I was not sure. Maybe to manage a restaurant, which is what I used to do in Tel Aviv, and then bartendering. And then a customer just offered me to go to a job interview in a diamonds company. And I was like, diamonds company? And they looked for a manager of a big diamonds company, American, Israeli, wholesale for diamonds. And I said, you know what? He was just like a customer that used to drink a lot on the bar, but we had like a mutual respect. And when he said you should try, why not? What if you get a job? And I said sure. I was probably 26 or 25, just graduated from school. And I went to the job interview, and then a second interview, a third interview, and then I got a job. So I got certified in diamonds grading and gemstones, and I got a job. And yeah, it's long story, but in a short sentence, I got a key to a company, to an office, with a safe, with a stock of diamonds.
Wow.
I know nothing about what should I do. So I basically learned from zero. I hired the staff, Chinese people who would help me with everything, with the customs, regulations, finding customers, managing the company, making a business plan. And in the beginning, it was just two of us, and ultimately we became a team of 9-10 people. And that was my main job for 5-6 years.
Wow.
And during that time, I also met Rashef, and we got married.
I'm going to say that I love the fact that I have this podcast, because I've been crossing paths with you for years now, and I don't know this story, and I don't know if I would have. I feel bad that I haven't asked you this question before this, and that's so fascinating to see and hear your story.
It's such a worldly love that these two found each other, because he was from Morocco, right? And he went to Shanghai.
He's Israeli Moroccan.
Yeah, and so it's like you guys were literally from different continents and different areas, and then you meet somewhere you're not even rooted in. It's like, how cosmic is that?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was wild, because I was a single woman. I was dating guys, and I said, I probably will never, ever date Israeli guy again. And you have all this abundance. You have Italian people and Spanish people and French and all over the world. And it was very nice to hang with different people. But then ultimately I met him and we fell in love, and I did end up dating and marrying an Israeli guy again, Moroccan Israeli.
Love is love.
So never say never. I know, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you have this world experience, that you've got to experience all these customs and festivals and traditions, and what you've what has lived in your heart is what lives in your family, and it shows. And that's why we asked you to be on this podcast, because I don't know anyone that has such a unique story like you do, from where you were born, where you grew up, where you moved professionally and found love, and then now you're here and in the States, and we get to learn from you, which is amazing. So yeah, I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And one thing that I also admire about your what you told us is that you are not a religious person, but you still took pieces of religions that you were connected with and still taught them to your children and instilled some of those ideas and traditions for them, because it doesn't hurt. It helps to understand how religions are, even though you don't practice them.
I know, and kids absorb sometimes what they need. Like, we try not to impose anything, but Johnny's grandparents, for example, they're very kosher. So kosher means they separate dairy from meat, and they will only buy specific meat from a kosher supermarket that has been slaughtered in a specific way. So they're very strict. And he used to be like a boy who loves his prosciutto and salami and pork and all of these things that usually not supposed to eat as a Jewish person. But without imposing anything, after the last visit from grandparents, he suddenly refused. Like, I don't want any pepperoni pizza, Mom. And that's not kosher. It doesn't seem to me that clean anymore. And he just chose without, and I love it, because sometimes we don't need to impose anything or forcefully, say the traditions are this and that and we have to do it. It's just so much more beautiful when the kids just absorb what they need, what they want out of all that.
Yeah, it's what spoke to him. That's really sweet. I mean, is there any other traditions you would like to, that's maybe your favorite, that you would like to share before we close our session today with you?
No, we don't have that many traditions really. We do have the Santa Claus that brings presents. So we just combine all these things.
Yep.
Hanukkah, we also bring some money sometimes, or the chocolate coins. And I do love the Chinese tradition of Chinese New Year with the envelope, that if you came last year to my house, maybe we put for each child. And what the Chinese do, they put a red envelope for each family member and give him money out of respect. And you taking this money and you share it with others. Even if you're a child and you just received $20, but you will share them with others, whatever you have. Maybe $2 for your sibling and $3 for your parent. And it's just also a sign to show respect with that money. But another tradition that we love to do is the money, the red envelope.
That's awesome.
Kind of thing.
I love it.
And just try to keep it simple, just to have simple living, even around the holidays. Try not to just stress ourselves and cut up and all that. Holiday season that becomes sometimes overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And it loses, that's a really good point, because then it loses what it's really about.
Yeah.
Because it's not about stressing out. It's about connection, ultimately.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, well, thank you,
Sky,
your time today. I loved hearing all your
my dears.
Story, and we'll be seeing you, and happy holidays to you.
Thank you for having me. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. I love it. So our guest today is Rachael Smith, and she is a colleague of mine, my friend. She's been a former teacher of my children and continues to be so. She is just such a pillar in our community. She runs a beautiful early childhood center in Fallbrook called Rock Rose, and we are just so grateful to have her on today, because she holds festivals so dear, and she is so mindful of how she presents this to the children and also to their families in our community. And she does such a beautiful job. It's all the specifics you think of, Rachael, that I would sometimes not think of. And it's all these little pieces that are all part of a big picture. And that's what I appreciate you as a friend and as a human and a teacher and colleague, is you having that broad picture, but being able to dissect it and know the steps to make that goal happen. So welcome to the podcast. Yes. And you there are so many festivals in the winter and late fall with our, the way we celebrate in Waldorf curriculum. And that's why we're here today, because you do bring that, and you're the one that leads those in our early childhood center. So we would like to hear about your background, your family background, and then also how you celebrate those holidays. And it doesn't have to be the ones at the school. It can be your personal ones. So today is sharing what you want to share. So we would like to get started with that question. Please.
Oh, thank you. I love this fall winter season, and I grew up with such rich traditions around. My family celebrated Christmas growing up, still does, and it was always just such a special time for us at home. And all the little pieces, I think, as a teacher now, like you were saying, kind of thinking about all those steps, I can see how that was held for me as a child and appreciate it. That sense of anticipation and waiting and joy that's building, and the work around the festivals was always such a lively part. I mean, it's funny to think, like, all the children these days have advent calendars that open, and they're all so excited to tell me about what's in them, chocolate or rocks or different things. But when we grew up, our favorite things were, we would make paper chains. I don't know if you guys ever had those, where you take the paper and you basically glue the segments together and make paper chains. And we would draw a picture to what event we were working towards. So we would draw like a really elaborate Christmas picture and then tape that up and have the paper chains go. And I remember just seeing they would go stretch, forever, and they'd be on the ground and all over the walls. And then just day by day, getting closer and closer to that picture was always such a joy. And so what else? So Christmas, we have a lot of kind of homey traditions around it. We always grew up where we act out the Christmas story. So we would be Mary and Joseph, and my sister was just talking about the other day. So when we had like all of our grandparents and cousins around, we had everybody. You could have like a great big nativity with everyone acting out the different parts. But then when it was just our nuclear family, I have 2 brothers and a sister, we would all just be set parts. Like, I was always the angel and the narrator. My sister's always all 3 innkeepers. My oldest brother's always the kings. My younger brother's the shepherds. And my mom and dad were Joseph. And then whatever baby doll was our favorite was baby Jesus. So we would just do that every Christmas Eve. We'd act out that story. And then even when we got older and we didn't act it out, we would still just say it and sing carols. And so singing and storytelling have always been an aspect of our family festivals, I guess. And we get a tree, but thinking the joy, it was always very exciting to get gifts for each other and make cookies and things like that. It was and we have this one tradition that I think my dad's friend at one point told him about, how on Christmas morning that kids always brought coffee to the parents first. And my parents were like, well, that sounds like a really good idea. And so our Christmas tradition always was that we would make our parents coffee, and we would be very, very careful not to peek at the tree and not peek at the stockings or anything. So we'd have to like walk in, covering our eyes, into the kitchen and make them coffee, and then take it to them in the bedroom and say, Merry Christmas, here's your coffee. Can we go look at our stockings and Christmas tree now? And then of course they'd say yes, and we'd all go together. So we,
Holy crap. This is a new tradition in the Cooley household.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think most people listening are going to say, hey, that's the way to roll.
Oh my gosh, I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
How old were you?
Exciting. Because also you get that joy of like making the coffee, and we'd learn how to like set it up the night before when our parents were first teaching us. And now we still do it. So, when my niece and nephew spend the night, they come, I'm usually awake very early. And so everyone comes to my house, and we wait for and you have to wait for the designated time. So if you wake up before you're allowed to go down to have Christmas, then we had like a set room where all the kids could play and be, and then you make the coffee, and then you went into the parents. And
wow. You really earned that present ripping time. I'll tell you what. That's
Yeah.
amazing. How old were you guys
So
when this tradition started? How old were you?
Oh, I feel so there's about 8-year range between us. My oldest brother is 8 years older than my youngest brother. And so I think we were probably with that range, maybe my oldest brother, I was probably about 10. So he was probably about 13. And again,
Yeah.
it was probably, and I know actually which friend it was of my dad's that was telling us one day, like, oh, this is what? You don't do this? That's how you start Christmas morning. And then we were like, okay. And we really took it on. And I was always the one that went to start the coffee because I was trusted not to peek. And so I'd cover my eyes and prove to everyone I won't peek at the Christmas tree yet. And so that we all saw it at the same time, because then Santa came to our home and our stockings, and then we would get to look at our stockings. And we always took it in order to open presents. Like, how some families, everyone opens all at once, but we go one by one.
Yeah.
That was how it was in my family because we had a small family gathering. So every single person opened the gift and we'd all watch and we'd take 5 pictures with
That's
the
right,
gift.
the 5 pictures.
We'd all ooh and ah about it. And then we'd all talk, the person who received it, even if you didn't like it, you'd be like, oh, I like this, and this about it. Even, it was just it was a nice way to just appreciate the gift that you were given and give it spotlight.
Perfect,
Especially with the person who gave it to you. So you just have this acknowledgement.
Absolutely. I think besides the Santa gift that we don't wrap, it's usually there. The kids get to have that moment with it. And then when it's the family, we do take turns for that reason too. And also it's like you can share your excitement with the person opening the gift, right? I mean, it's like, it's also, you're like, wow, that's cool. I want to have fun with that too. Like it's exciting for everybody to have something new in the house. Yeah. So I think that's really cool.
The one that gives the gift, you want to see someone open it. I remember the big part of our Christmas was not necessarily even making our list, but getting excited to shop for our siblings and wrap presents for each other. And so to have them open the present you wrapped and that you picked out, and to see their excitement was always really fun. And, then sometimes people would have a lot of fun with that. One year, my brother put a present, in 7 boxes, right? So it looks so big, like, whoa, my gosh, what did you get me?
What'd you get?
Like this tiny little thing. So, we would have fun with that.
Yep. My dad did that so many years, and we all knew. But it was just so fun. They're like, maybe this year it'll be a big, humongous thing.
Yeah,
but fun. It was always money in the end. So we all appreciate it. Yeah.
So what? Or something.
Absolutely. So what do you have any other? So what's the schedule like for you guys? Because it seems like you guys really follow this tradition. So you open your presents after coffee, and is there a traditional breakfast after, or what do you guys do?
Yeah, growing up, there always was. And now it's shifted a little as, our family has changed and shifted, and we've got new family members with my siblings, partners there and spouses and the little kids all coming back. I feel like, but we always did a big breakfast. So we're a very open presents, wake up early family. We've always been, even when we were kids and the oldest ones are in high school and they don't want to wake up, and you're sitting there but you'd always agree on the time, and 6 between, never after 7, but even then, so you got to wake up that old. And even when they come back, being older, and now with the little kids again, but we open presents and then we will have breakfast. And now it's shifted. My brother-in-law usually makes fried rice for breakfast, which is amazing. And we have fried rice and eggs or something like that. So we have a nice big breakfast all together after we've opened our presents. And then just again, when we were little, then it just became time to play and have your presents and kind of, when we were really little, we've lived in different places. We live not far from grandparents. We would have gone off to grandparents' place afterwards for a meal. But then when we lived far away, it would have just been us and the family, and we either make a big meal or we'd make a small meal, and sometimes we'd get dressed up and sometimes we'd still be in our pajamas. It's kind of just depended on where we were living and what ages we were at those times. But leading up to it, we always did the Advent candles, and we'd have our Advent calendar was those rings that we would take off. But we would have the first light of Advent. It's each kingdom. It's a Steiner thing. So being a part of a Waldorf program, and my mom had trained as a Waldorf teacher and brought this into our lives. So you have this, again, each week has its own buildup. So each kingdom, so the first week is the light of stones and crystals and seashells, and the second week is plants, and the third week is the animals, and the fourth is the people. And we actually had this beautiful nativity set, and we'd set Mary and Joseph really far away, and you bringing them closer and closer, and kind of every day moving and kind of acting out that story. And the same thing we'd light the candles. And when we were little, my mom had she'd sewn this big kind of Christmas tree basically, and it had little ribbons. And so when you went to put each kingdom on, you'd actually tie them on the tree. So they had little tiny crystals, or like little dried plants, or little tiny animal tokens, and you tie it so this whole little Christmas tree would get filled over the 4 weeks as you build towards Christmas Day. So that was always really special. But the other parts just kind of shift and go. Like I said, as we got older, when we didn't act the story out, we'd sit around and laugh and sing the songs and remember our lines, kind of thing. We looked at Christmas lights. We used to always go out and look at Christmas lights. And that would be a time, again, we'd sing Christmas carols in the car and look at Christmas lights. And when you're little, it's one mood, and then you're older. I can remember us all kind of tussling and getting in the car. But even when we were all in high school or visiting back from, living different places, we'd still have that moment and kind of get all in the car and go drive around and look at Christmas lights and sing. And just so a lot of times like that. And then food, cookies, we'd always make cookies.
Isn't it interesting too when traditions shift based on the generations, or as the kids get older? We're having that issue right now in our family of we used to do this when my husband's family was younger, and now that we've integrated other families and we have to meet earlier days, it's we have to all decide are we going to keep up with this tradition, or are we going to change it, or are we going to infuse some of it? So this year we decided we're just going to sing Christmas carols rather than do this whole thing that we usually do with Santa coming early. But I think it's cool that we all kind of have to just shift with the times.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And I've been in a really good position in my life to watch this shift and take a step back and thinking about it, with watching and remembering what happened for me growing up. And then as a teacher bringing these festivals, I think a lot about how they were brought to me and what aspects I want to keep and all these different things. But watching that and seeing that shift, like I said, when we got older and then people bringing boyfriends and girlfriends home, and they're a part of it, and you're okay, we're going to act this out in front of this.
I was going to ask you, did you act?
Yes, we're going to act it out in front of your new boyfriend, or bringing these people home and things. It's always so fun to kind of be okay, we're going to do it. Or friends come home for the holidays who don't have a place to go. There's different friends that used to be a part of your family, or still are, but at that point maybe needed that extra home to be in for the season. But it's been fun for me to see too, with my siblings' kids, so my nieces and nephews, see that return to the early days and be oh, that's right, when we were really little, this is what we did. And now they're getting a little older, and you're oh, okay, now we're letting go of some of this again, and oh, it will come back. So I have a sense of security to know it will come back round, and that's kind of allowed me to let things go, or let them shift, or remember oh, when we let this go, look, it did return, and things like that.
Oh, I love that.
And
the seasons.
It's a cycle. It definitely is. Seasons. It is. And I also love that you were able to still push on with your traditions, even with the new family or friends, because maybe that lit something in them to take on, just like the coffee thing was something you guys took on from somebody else. We inspire each other with these traditions, as you and I both do, professionally. So,
and I think sometimes people are afraid to say they want to do some of these things. But I remember a long time ago, I lived abroad in Hong Kong, and there was a bunch of us, not going home for Christmas. And and people were planning, parties and all this stuff. And I was like, we had a Christmas caroling party, and we had a piano, and people came over, and we played piano and sang Christmas carols and had like an old fashioned, and even though everyone was, so sophisticated and up in their life in different points, everyone was so happy to be like, oh yes, let's decorate the tree together and have a Christmas carol. So I think sometimes to be brave to say you want to do these traditional things, then people feel relief, and happiness to be a part of it. So
that's cool. I
picture love all that stuff. So I'm always
picture Little Women. I feel like your Christmas reminds me of the book Little Women, like the whole very traditional when you're describing these things. It's super sweet.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm just thinking about you guys all acting out this play in front of nobody and having such a good time.
We have so much fun. We're hilarious. And like I said, we are, and that's where someone was like, but what do you do? And well, then one brother's all three kings. And my sister, she's the three innkeepers. It's so good because she would actually do this turn, you pretend knock on the door, and then she flips and here's the next, and turns and does the next. I mean,
wow.
That is so good.
Put on, costumes, cloths, and bathrobes, and make elaborate things. And now with the little kids, they get really into, we never were that sophisticated when we were little, but the little kids now, my niece and nephews, we build sets, and we build big elaborate sets, and and then the baby is usually the lamb, and they love it because their whole line is ba, because they're little sheep.
So cute.
And it's so sweet, it's just right. But yeah, it's usually, and I find that to reconnect to the story of the festival really brings it so much meaning. And when I talk to parents about it as a teacher, it's like every young child can identify with this joy of a baby, or they either remember being the baby or having this idea, the excitement, a baby is coming. And you don't need to have, if your family is more religious, you can talk more about the religious spiritual story of it. But if it is that you just want to connect to the kind of mood of this expectation and joy and this baby bringing love, then there's that room for that too, to not just throw that whole story out. I mean, Santa Claus is beautiful as well, with the elves and the joy that he can bring, and all of that. And but I also think it's important to remember the kind of that feeling of expectation and looking for a place to be, and getting turned down when Mary and Joseph are looking for, inn after inn, and then of course the kings come later, and just that sense of it all.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
So that was always important to us, and it's a nice thing to have.
Awesome. I would like to ask one more question before we close, and it's kind of an elaborate one, but my favorite winter festival is the Winter Spiral. Yes. And you do it so beautifully, and you do it outside, or some people, we all do it different places where it's safe for us to do it. Sometimes we did it indoors in other schools. But can you please describe, and I would actually like that picture to be our picture for this episode when we air it, because I feel like it's such a universal, such a universal festival that brings all of our beliefs in at once, and it all has the same message. So can you please describe Winter Spiral?
Yes, thank you for asking. Let's see if I can do it justice. So it's a tradition in Waldorf communities and Steiner schools to do this during the dark season, this winter season, when the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting longer and darker, and often there's element of shift of temperature, cold and dark, to have this, they call it the Advent spiral or winter spiral, or spiral garden and winter garden. And what you do is, it's a spiral made on the ground. Really could be you can make them very big or small, but you're going to walk in a spiral and then come back out. And when you make it with pine boughs or fir tree boughs, we have an outdoor one that lives all the time, so we've made it with rocks and crystals and big stones, and even a few succulent plants. So you can make them in different ways. But traditionally, you're making them with the pine and during this winter season. So the spiral, oh gosh, it's hard to walking. So a spiral is a universal shape. And when you think about it, when I think about it, what I hold is that this season, as it's getting colder and darker, it's important to go in and find your light and then come back out and place that somewhere on the path. So it's an inner journey to go in and find your light, your strength, what that could be, and then coming back out, being ready to walk into the world. So winter is also a time that it looks like everything is asleep and bare, but there's so much inner work happening. This is the time for all that inner work. So this is a great time to go in to yourself, have that physical walking in of the spiral. And so the way the spiral is done is at night, and there's a candle in the center. And sometimes, depending on the school, that is lit or not lit. You can have somebody walk in and light that center candle, or you can come in and already have that center candle lit. And then everybody takes a turn one by one to walk in to the spiral and light their candle from that. And then as you walk out, you can place your candle anywhere on the spiral. So what ends up happening is you have a dark space that gets brighter and brighter and brighter, filled with everybody's light. And it's it'd be interesting for you guys to speak of your experience of either having your children do it or walking it yourself. For us in early childhood with the little ones, I always have the parents walk with the child, because this picture of early childhood is that you are very connected to your parent. And this is that time that we're really holding that space for them. And we're just the mantle around them, that kind of like you think of a mantle around a fireplace, or a gate around a garden. As the parent, you're holding that space for them and you're a part of that. So the parent walking that inner journey with the child is just, for me, right in early childhood, because you're so connected. But then when you get into grade school, then you're stepping out, you're kind of beginning to find that independence, and you're ready to move away. And it's a good moment for the parent also to let go and let them move away, more and more as they enter the next realm. So for early childhood, we go in with a parent. So that was not, I don't know how much editing you do for these shows, but that was,
I think that was
clear.
No, it's very, I love the way you described it, because that's what it is. Going deeper, I know, when you look, if you could take a telescope outside of our galaxy, that's the shape of our spiral. It's that spiral shape. And they're also seeing in science that anything that starts creation has that spiral shape, which is really interesting. I just learned this last year, that spiral shape that we make for the winter spiral is that spiral of creation. But it's such a beautiful, inspiring thing to walk through, because it's so reverent, and it feels like you're floating in time when you're walking in. Like time suspends. You're concentrating on getting to the center, and you're also wanting to respect everything that's been laid out. And it's so visual. If you're the first one to enter, it's very dark. So you have to be brave if you're a child with your, and then there you have to place what is an apple. Usually, traditionally, you core out a red apple, and there's a candle in the center, and that's what you're lighting from the center. And it's so beautiful to find the place for you in that spiral and create that light and space for that celebration. It's just so moving to watch people do it and to do it yourself. I feel like it's equally as appreciated whether you participate or you don't. When you're sitting, you can appreciate the experience as much as when you're doing. That's one of
No, for sure. And as a teacher, I love to watch the children walk it. It's a picture of where they are and on their path, right?
Yeah.
Development and growth is all a path. And where are we on that path, and in relationship to it? And the spiral, like you did say, it's universal. It's a universal and that's what plants do as they grow. They create that spiral.
Mhm.
It's in everything. And so to get to be a part of that, it's within us. These spirals are also a part of us. So to have it, and I always have that feeling too when I light it. Sometimes walking in, you're going slowly, but you're more secure. You're not holding your light yet. You're going towards it. But then when you've lit it and you're walking back out, there's that moment of until you put, and then the moment of carrying it while it's lit, and then you put it down. You choose a place in the spiral to put it. And usually there's a marker. Sometimes there's stars or something so that people have a place. Okay, you can put it down here or there as you walk the spiral, so that you create a pathway. But there's a difference within you of when you're walking in to light it, when you have it lit, and then when you place it and are walking out again after you've placed it down, back out into the world. And it's a really interesting meditation to just feel those three differences, you know?
Absolutely. And I feel like you feel interconnected. Once you've lit it, that's such a good point. Once you've lit it, you've become a part of something that everyone else that's participating has become a part of. So
I think a key word for me that you said, Rachel, is it's meditative. And I remember when my daughter first did it and I wasn't familiar with it. And she went to go light that by herself. And, she was still, it was on the cusp of me being a part of me and also being more independent, and me holding space for her of like, oh my gosh, like, is she going to drop it? Is she going to light this place on fire? And watching her just so carefully do it and then place it on the ground and just carefully come out. It's just like I had all of these like 7,000 emotions in me in silence. And, the room is, maybe there's softly lit music or soft sound music. But it's usually very reverent, very, very, still mood. But like I feel the energy and the emotions of everyone else in the room with us. Yeah.
you become one.
Sure.
And that you are,
when that little child takes that and you're giving them such responsibility, and with responsibility becomes inner security, right? To actually hold that themselves and to realize capability that allows them to feel strong. And then they go to light it, and you see their face light up in the glow when they're lighting it and their candle lights. And it's one of my favorite moments, is to just kind of try to position myself so I can watch that moment, and you just see their whole being, like they're just, I lit a candle. It's my candle,
yes.
Yeah.
I think that's so beautiful. And as a parent also, when my children first lit their candle, it also made me realize, because they are so much a part of me, that they had their own inner light besides me, which I knew that, but it was a physical seen thing. They are their own entity even without me. And that's one of the not first times I saw it, but so symbolically saw this, as they have their own work in this world, and they're going to light this world with their own light.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful thing to see. Thanks for explaining that. That's something you bring so beautifully, and I wanted you to share that with us.
Thank you. It's one of my favorites too, and it's such a gift. And I was given a gift by my teachers. When I was doing my some Waldorf training, at one point they did it for us as teachers, and they had they're like, you can't talk. You're going to walk in, you can't talk the whole time you do it. And they had set it up for us. And, a lot of teacher training is you're doing all the stuff because you're learning how to do it. But this was something that was just given to us to participate in, and it had been set up. And it was for me, this such a beautiful moment to experience it completely as someone else had set it up and held it for me. And so I've always think about that when I try to bring it, is to give that same feeling and so like holding to it, because it is a very reverential moment to go in and have that and walk together, and you're on your own, but to create that light together, because you do walk on your own, which is again, your own with, as early childhood is with that family connection, but on your own still. So.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. This was such a lovely little portion of what you offer, because you're so amazing.
Thanks for
and now that
we've putting up with my
now that we've had you on, Now that we've had you on, there'll be other topics that we'll hopefully invite you to come participate and educate. You know, a lot of families out there listening that might not have a school or resources to be a part of these beautiful, resources.
Chatting about children and childhood and all the fun, wonderful things and all the challenges, because those are a part of it too, you know?
Absolutely. They really are. Well, we want to thank you for your time today and happy holidays to you.
Thank you, Rachel.
If you'd like to keep up with the latest, see more shenanigans, or just connect with us, go to Instagram, where you'll find us at Real Motherfuckers Podcast.
And also, if you'd like to see some real juicy mama boobs, you can see it in action on YouTube, also at Real Motherfuckers Podcast.
And enough with the free Costco samples.
You can start paying up. Actually, you can also just support us monetarily on Patreon, where you'll get some more cool exclusive content. And you can find us there at
Real Motherfucker Fuckers Podcast.
We fuck up on this show.
Yeah.
Nothing's perfect.
Hence the name.